It's your boy Superman 2000. I'm in the fight chair. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning and I cannot sleep, man. I cannot sleep. Insomnia. But that's alright. I got lots of fights to talk about. No. Something good has happened in the MMA world. I'm very excited. But you never see smoke without fire. So, the Professional Fighters Association, aka the PFA, got my notes here, so I'm looking off camera, has recently been formed. Their goal is to represent fighters that are actually, what's all this here? Yeah, lit. That are going to be contracting to fight in the UFC. It's good. It's so good. This is really good. Now, this is a real mixed bag because here, Conor McGregor is saying that yeah he could see himself spearheading something like that. Hold on one second. Conor McGregor, you can't spearhead nothing apart from your face into Nate Diaz's fist because let me back up. So Conor McGregor said he could see himself spearheading something like this if it was presented correctly. What he's basically doing is leaving a door open, presented correctly. I mean, if Dana White and the Furta brothers say, "Hey, it's we're cool with it," otherwise he's a company man. Literally, after the last fallout, and him and Dana White and Mr. Furta sit down and had a talk. He's a good lapdog. He's not gonna buck the system. So for him to say he could see himself spearheading something like that, nah, he's not spearheading nothing. If it's presented correctly, means just simply means that hey, if Dana White and Lorenzo says cool, then I can get with you guys and get out in front of it, get myself some publicity because I'm an egomaniac. I want to save the day. That's all good. So Conor McGregor knows that this PFA dog that just came on the scene, he's not sure if it has a bite or a bark. So he's like, well, let me get myself some hype, some more news off this, because after all, I have a fight that's coming up that I'm trying to sell. So I gotta get myself on it, gotta keep the hype train going. I understand that. That's cool. Now, further about the PFA. Now, here's the thing that I said before. Collective bargaining only applies to employees, right? A contractor can join a union, but the employer is under no obligation to do collective bargaining with that union. So basically, for this thing to work, just like Cannabis Hill said, just like John Smith said, so everybody in the UFC have to be on board. The bigger guys have to be backing the smaller guys. They all have to work together to make it happen. Even the fans, to some extent, have to step up to. Because what's going to happen is that, believe it or not, right now at this very moment, I'm sure that Butterball, Dana White, I'm sure he's working the phones, calling people saying, "Hey, you gonna back me on this, you gonna back me on that," blah blah blah. He's working the phones trying to get the information. Trying to find out what's going on, trying to squeeze, trying to pressure, trying to tweak, trying to make sure that this new entity that's gonna come in there and protect the fighters and give them more leverage, that the legs are taken up from underneath it. Because keep in mind that the sale of the UFC is still in process. It's been announced, the transaction is still taking place, things are still taking place behind the scenes that we don't know about. So right now the UFC is vulnerable, and that's why this organization chose this perfect time to be formed and to go after the UFC, because then hey, you guys are in the process of exchanging hands. The new owners here don't know what they're going to get themselves into. And in the midst of this deal being made, If we raise enough hell, these new owners, they're gonna get scared. They're gonna tell Dana White, "Hey, you gotta fix this. You gotta make this right, because I'm not gonna inherit your mess." And then the UFC will be pushed or forced into negotiating with the PFA. Now, this sounds like a Palestinian movement overseas with the Israelis. So I they probably could have picked another name, but I refer to it as Professional Fighters Association, because there's other international entities that are overseas, like Liberation Forces, have similar names. So that's why I read out the international news. So it's difficult for me to keep saying the PFA without thinking something in the back of my mind. All right, now for this thing to work, all the fighters are going to have to work together and support each other, come together. The big guys, the little guys, they're all going to have to join the association. Now, one of the key things, the reason why I believe, at first I was skeptical, but I believe it will work, because I went to the PFA's website and I did I checked them out to see what they're about. I mean, if the dog is going to bark, I want to see if it can bite. And they made some very good points about profit sharing. They believe that the UFC only shares 15% of its profits with the athletes, whereas the NBA and other sports share up to 50%. Well, my calculations that I've been doing, my estimate is less than that. My estimate comes out to 6%. I believe that the UFC probably shares 6% of its estimated of its profits with the fighters, and I believe that the 600 million revenue that they're quoting, that number, does not include certain revenues and certain royalties on the back end. So I believe that it's some. I know they're overstating the revenue in some cases, but at the same time, I believe that they just dwell magic with numbers just to make the fighters know, hey, your royalty shouldn't be this. I'm paying that way, So they just tweak the numbers a bit every now and then just to keep it popping. Now, the Professional Fighters Association, things that concern me is that every association and every union, it costs money to be in them. So are there going to be another layer of fees that fighters will have to pay in addition to management fees? So the manager takes 30% cut of, typically, of the athlete's contract and type of stuff. So now, to be in the PFA association, I'm sure if it's a union or an association, you're gonna have to pay some dues, right? What percentage of the fighters' money does those dues affect? And since the UFC has been valued at the $4 billion now, and so that means that there's like either 2 or probably 0.5 billion that they estimate should be paid out to fighters. That should be somewhere in the balance sheet as long term as going to be paid out to fighters, in the budgeting and in the planning side of it. So they're thinking, hey, the UFC is worth this much money. Let's go after them first, because they're about to go through a sale. They're vulnerable. We have a solid valuation on them. We have something that we can hone in on. Bellator, it's all over the map. You can't nail Bellator down. But because this sale is going through, the UFC is vulnerable. That's why now is the perfect time to strike with the PFA. All right, I can see that working. It's business. You strike when your competition is vulnerable. Let me read you a list of the people involved in the PFA. And I love the lineup. I really do. These are some solid guys. Okay, so we got Lucas Middlebrook. Okay, he is supposed to be. We got Lucas Middlebrook here. He is a great agent. He negotiated for Nick Diaz when Nick was suspended. He got his suspension down, and work with the commission to defend it. So I like that. And then afterwards, he's also a baseball agent, so that's pretty good. Then we got the NBA referees commissioner. He's the head of the NBA referees union. Callie, what's this? Mandenhall. Okay, great, 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 great. They got some good people here. I love the lineup. So what else we got here? All right, I'm not gonna read all this junk here. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning anyway, and I can't sleep. So when I can't sleep, I'm all over the map. I don't want to be all over the map. I want to be more specific. So the lineup that they got is really good. These are people that are in former union athletic unions and athletic associations, so they understand the union laws and that type of stuff, and why it's going to take to pull this thing off. But I believe that without support from the heavyweights, like Conor McGregor, Daniel Cormier, John Jones, it's the people who are up at the top, the big dog, the big names, like those people, Dana White have them wrapped around his little finger. Very few of them are going to buck the fence. No, I can guarantee that Jose Aldo, he's yeah, he's the one who should be spearheading the union because he's vocal, and he's the one who should be spearheading the union. He's not lapdog, wrap around your finger type. He does what he's contractually obligated to do, but he's gonna speak his mind. But I don't see Anderson Silva joining the union. I don't see Conor McGregor stepping up. I don't see John Jones. I don't have Daniel Cormier bucking the fence. Now I do have Rafael dos Anjos, Nate, and Nick Diaz joining the union. Woodley, I don't see him joining the union. Rory McDonald, I see him doing it, and I'm just off the top of my head based on the history of these fighters, and how they've been treated uh, by the UFC and their relationship with Dana White and the things that they've been vocal about. The Cowboy Caroni, definitely, I see him joining the union. So as this thing unfolds, I'm gonna keep track of it. Like I said before, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning. Can't sleep. I got fights on the brain, so I'm probably gonna watch some UFC Unleashed, have some pizza, and then I'm out of O'Doul's, so there'll be no O'Doul's tonight. All right, guys, that's my 2 cents from the fight here. Peace out.